Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Karin Vergouwen. I'm one of Televic's product managers. Today the webinar will cover hybrid meetings for government solutions, presented by myself and Karel Vergouwen, also product manager for Televic. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. First off, let us know if you can see the presentation and if you can hear us. Just give us a quick heads up in the chat on the right side of your screen. Okay, great. I'll briefly take you through the interface of our webinar, so you'll feel right at home. On the left side, you'll see our presentation. You can use the buttons on bottom side to go full screen or to leave the webinar. The sidebar has 4 tabs. You can chat with us and give us feedback in the last step. Next to that, you have the question tab, used for specific questions. If you have a question, please type it here. Other participants can upvote answers, and this allows us to see what the most important topics are. And we go through your questions at the end of the presentation. The third tab is polls. From time to time, we may ask you a question and allow you to vote. Okay, that's it. The webinar will take around 45 minutes, and our goal is to give you a short presentation of around half an hour, including a short demo. And then we'll take another 15 minutes to answer your questions. Okay, that's it. Let's start the presentation on hybrid meetings for government applications. Hybrid. The word hybrid is everywhere, but what is it exactly? For us, it's face-to-face meetings and virtual meetings combined. We combine the 2 advantages of both. But there is a difference between Zoom or Teams or other integrations and Televic. And the main difference between the most known online meeting solutions and Televic resides in the starting point. Where Zoom or Teams are about connecting remote people and is by default an online solution, where a starting point for Televic is a physical meeting room. We start from the physical room and build everything around. Why did we make the move to hybrid? And what problems do we want to solve? Well, we could identify several issues in government applications, such as authentication problems. Everyone can log in. Also, a lot of audio quality problems. Anyone can speak anytime. And it's not always clear who is asking for the floor. People are raising their hands, but it's not visible. We have no control on the contents that will be shared. And of course, voting issues, the ability to vote in a decent way. And that's why we developed a solution based on 4 pillars. First, meeting moderation, secure access, voting, and agenda management. Due to COVID, everyone had to meet from home, so 100% online meetings. And there are several known solutions for this, like Zoom, Teams, WebEx, but each with a limitation on moderating the meeting and how do you manage the voting. If we look then to hybrid meetings, on the one hand, we have the people at home using the online meeting application. And on the other hand, you have the physical room using the conference system with the units. And when you do this combination with Zoom, Teams or WebEx and the conference system in the room, you will have good audio quality for both. But you'll face another problem. Namely, you need to manage both applications, the one used for the online meeting and the conference system used in the physical room. And that's why we developed Confero. We want to offer a combination of both, online meetings and physical meetings, where everything is Televic. So Confero, our Televic cloud platform, with the benefits of first, one system, only one secured end-to-end encrypted system. And secondly, the managing of the room and the online meetings done within one interface. The moderation of the meeting is managed from one point. For example, a voting can be started from the room, and at the same moment, it started for the remote participants. People in the room can vote with the units, and people from home can vote in a web browser. And the results are managed in one system, the Televic Conference system. Now I will turn the presentation over to Karel van Heulen, also product manager for Televic, and he will give some more technical details on our cloud platform, Confero.
Okay, thank you, Karen, for a nice explanation. I think you gave a good context on why we made this solution and how we are different from the other existing alternatives. So now I will dive a little bit deeper into the solution itself and give a little demo then, but that's for over 5 minutes. I suggest that you go over to our meeting room, our physical meeting room in another building. I will be participating from here, from remote as such, so we'll have a discussion and you at home can follow us. But before we do that, I'll just give some explanation on how it actually works, and then we'll go further into the presentation. Sorry, demonstration. So, in fact, as Karen already explained, the ultimate goal is, in fact, to create the same meeting experience for everyone. So, be it remotely or physically in the meeting room. So that, in fact, the remote participants have the same rights, the same abilities as the delegates in the room. So that's the ultimate goal. As you can see, the application has been built specifically for governmental organizations like city councils with very specific needs with regard to moderation and meeting management. So what do we mean with meeting moderation? Well, from one application, we want to manage everything. For example, who speaks and who can speak, activating microphones, regardless of where the delegates are participating from. It's also about recording the participants' attendance list, seeing who is effectively in the meeting, be it physically with a badge on the unit or logged in on the application remotely. It's also about managing the agenda. Of course, you can manage an agenda within the room, but also people remote needs to be able to follow the agenda, but certainly also to have the ability to vote in the same way, have the same options as people in the room. And so as a meeting manager, you need to have the possibility to start, to initiate a new voting session, but also to see the progress of the vote and to see the total voting results at the end. Both, of course, for public votes and for secret votes. And that's where also security gets important, because we do have one Televic solution with the Televic platform. It means that it is a secure and end-to-end encrypted solution. I mean, end-to-end, DLS connection between the gateway within the physical room and our Confero cloud platform, and also end-to-end encryption from the cloud platform towards the remote participants. So also for the voting, for example, but also for audio and video, of course, everything is secure. Next to that, all the participants need to be registered upfront. So only participants with their credentials can actually participate to a meeting from remote, so that you are not able to send over a link to a meeting to somebody else. No, we need to know that somebody who actually is logged in is actually the person that is supposed to log in. So, yeah. Next to that, we do make sure that audio always gets priority, as we are not always able to know upfront what the bandwidth will be from each single remote participants. We made sure that we have a kind of adaptive bandwidth control, where we preserve audio as long as possible. So that means if the bandwidth would drop with the remote participants, then we make sure that video will get lesser priority and audio gets the higher priority, because, as you know, we can have a good moderate, a good conversation, a good meeting with audio, but and without video, but not video without audio, of course. Another difference is the way how we present the remote participants. Typical applications like Teams, Zoom, WebEx try to show all the participants in one big screen, in a kind of Hollywood style grid view. We try to focus on the active speaking persons, just to make sure that the focus is right on the active speakers and is not, on everybody at the same time, because in a simple way, you want to show or to focus on the people who are speaking. And if somebody, or if you need to look in a grid view who is actually speaking, you can get lost in that conversation. So, as you can see here, if there is somebody speaking in the room, he will be visible, and if somebody at the same time is speaking remotely, you will see them next to each other. I'll go a little bit deeper in the interface when I give my demo, but as you can see here, there is already a clear focus on the speakers. You have the agenda on the left bottom bar. You have the voting options or the participant list on the right. And then there is a big button on the bottom in green. So here it is a request to speak. So in that way, you have the same way of working like if you would use a physical delegate unit. And I mean, if you want to speak, you need to press a button. And of course, this button will also follow the meeting or the microphone mode of the conference room. I mean, if you can directly speak in the conference room, you need to press the button in order to speak. You will also be able to speak directly when I press this button here. When you need to request the floor, I mean, when you need to push the button and you get into a queuing list, then it will be the same for the remote participants. The remote participant will press a button and he or she will appear in the queuing list and will get the floor by the chairperson. Okay. For the people in the room, of course, in the physical meeting room, they will see on the big screen the remote participants that are speaking. So only those who are speaking. And at the same time, also voting results, agenda topics, or even shared presentations. So one single screen that will show everything depending on the context. Okay. Just some live examples. Yesterday evening, there was this was an example of yesterday evening where there was a city council meeting in Wervik. Wervik is a small city here in Belgium. So typically here in Belgium, people during Corona still are mostly remote, so only the chairperson, the mayor and the secretary are sitting in the council room, and all the rest is participating from remote. Of course, when the COVID will disappear in the future, people will get more and more into the meeting room, but still we want to keep the ability to participate from remote in case of illness, in case of, for example, also there is a student who cannot always come during the week to the council, and then he always participates from remote. So that's also a use case where remote participation is certainly an added value for city councils. This was also during that meeting room. So here you see the architect who was invited to that meeting, where he presented a new plan for a park. So instead of coming over from Brussels to Wervik to just present that, during a half an hour the new plans for a park, he did this from remote. And when there was a voting session going on, of course, you saw everybody voting being home or being in the meeting room all on one big screen. But that's for within a few minutes where you see it live in our demo. Now, how does it actually work? Well, we always start from the meeting room itself. So here you see a typical conference room with a central unit. You have some delegate units where there's a chairperson, and optionally there is a city clerk who can manage the meeting, meeting manager, let's say, who can manage the microphones, can manage the agenda if needed, and so on. Now, of course, when you want to have a kind of hybrid meeting, you need to have cameras. And typically we add a camera tracking system, so automatically tracking the active speaker in the room based on the microphone activation. I mean, if somebody presses the microphone button, the cameras will automatically position itself towards that person so that, that there is a close-up of that person. And that video image can be sent to the big screen in the room. So you see it here, but also can be sent to the Plexus gateway. And the Plexus gateway is a Televic device that actually makes the secure connection with the Confero Cloud environment. So the Plexus gateway is the only piece of hardware you need to add in this setup to make, well, to get the camera input from the camera tracking system, to get the audio and all the metadata from the conference system. And it will send it in a secure environment to the remote participants who can, of course, see and follow the meeting and actually also participate. So when they press the button, then they will see, well, he will see then, of course, the room, and people in the room will see then the remote participants. So this screen is used to always show the active speaking person, regardless if he or she is sitting in the room or is participating remotely. So one screen for showing the active speakers, and of course also the voting results and the agenda and the presentation, if needed, can also be put as an overlay on that screen. So everything is Televic. That means that there is no integration needed. There is no integration needed with an external, I would say, conferencing or online conferencing system. There's also no integration needed with an external voting system to combine voting sessions. So everything is one single Televic platform. And of course, as I said, the ultimate goal is to have the same meeting experience for people in the room using a delegate unit here as for people using the interface, the web interface on the PC. So as I said, if you have, for example, only, if you need to request a floor here, it's the same for the people here. If I change it in the room, it will also be changed for the people remotely. Okay, so this was a general explanation. I think now it will be better to just show you the demo in live. And therefore, I will end my presentation here. And I will go over to my interface Confero platform. So I'll just maybe log out to show you actually how it looks like. You surf to a web page on the cloud, so conferotelevic.com. You log in, and if you have the credentials of a meeting manager, you will be able to, in fact, prepare a meeting. I did this, and you will see I have prepared it here. And how did I do this? Well, I just put the name of the meeting here. I indicated if I wanted to record the audio automatically with the start of a meeting. If I don't want to do this, I can disable it. But typically, I want to just to start the audio recording with the start of the meeting. Indicate when it starts. And I can also choose the meeting room. So in one cloud application, I can manage, in fact, all the meetings, regardless of the number of rooms you have in your organization. And even for one single room, you can choose the room layout. For example, if you use different seatings for one meeting, regardless from the other. Secondly, I add the agenda. So the agenda can exist of normal discussion topics like I add here. So it's just a discussion item you can add, or can be a voting item. So this is a voting item where I just type in the title. I give the choices. So typically it is yes or no, or yes, abstain no, but I can add multiple options. Suppose you need to choose or elect a new member of a committee. You can have up to 16 choices here. And then, of course, you can add a color. And optionally, you can say, okay, this is a public vote or a secret vote. And if needed, I can also say that I need to hide the voting results until the vote has ended. So this second vote is here now a secret vote. So that's a little bit how I prepare a meeting. The delegates are in fact the delegates that need to be able to participate. So here I have the list of all possible delegates in my organization. But now I say, okay, I want only those four persons to participate. And I don't need to say up front if they will participate remotely or in the room. So they can still have both options open. I mean, if they come in the room and they put in their RFID badge, then they're logged in on the unit. If they decide to stay at home, they can log in from their web browser. Here also I can indicate who is chairperson. In this case, I and Karen will be chairperson of this meeting. And if needed, I can still put people in the room. So if I say, okay, no, Louis, he should be sitting on seat 6. Well, I will add him on seat 6. So that means that he will need to be participating from the physical meeting room. And that's about it. So I'll just save it and I publish this meeting. Publishing means that the emails will be sent and that the actual meeting is now also available on the central unit, so on the Plixus unit in the physical meeting room. So now I'm looking here at the physical meeting room. I will start the agenda. And I can see all prepared meetings here. So here I see that the webinar hybrid meetings has been prepared, and I can start this this meeting here. Okay, so now the meeting has started, and that means that I'm now, and I was invited, but I'm now able to join that meeting. Joining a meeting, if I go back to my interface, I see here that I can join a meeting that is prepared. So this is a big green border here. So I'll just press the join button. Sorry. And first thing that you see is that there is a kind of check on your audio settings and your video settings, because we want to make sure that everybody has the right audio settings, so you can see your microphone level. If you don't have any audio, you will not be able to join, so you need to have the audio and video available, otherwise you won't be able to join the meeting. Okay, so now I join. And in this case, you will immediately see the interface. So that means that I can see the conference room. So you see now Louis and Karen sitting in the meeting room. What else do I see? I see here that there is in the left bottom bar the agenda. So if I press on that one, it will go up and you will see all the agenda topics for that meeting. As a chairperson, of course, I do have extra possibilities. I can add discussion items and voting items during a meeting still, so ad hoc voting items that were not foreseen in the agenda. As a normal delegate, you don't have these options in order not to confuse the persons. Here, as I said, this is the microphone bar. So this is the same as what you have on the physical delegate unit. If I press this button, I will be able to speak. On the right side, you see the participants in the meeting. So in this case, Didier, Louis, myself, and Karen. I can see who is participating from remote. So Didier is, with the globe here, is remotely participating. I am also remotely participating, and Louis and Karen are sitting in the room, and we are both chairpersons. Chat is a second tab you have here. That means you can chat, but that is only a chat between a delegate and the operator or chairperson, and vice versa. So it's not a global chat in order not to lose the focus on the meeting. And then there is a voting tab, which is not in use yet. It's only used when the vote starts. So as a chairperson, as I said, I have also extra buttons. That means next in line button, the next agenda item button, and the start voting button. So that does mean that regardless of where you are, regardless of if you're sitting in the room or outside the room, you can, for example, get the next speaker activated. Now I will speak in the meeting room as a chairperson. So when I press this button, you will see that immediately there is a big red border that indicates that you are actually on the floor. So everybody can hear you, and also Karen and Louis should be able to hear me. Karen, can you maybe explain what you are hearing and seeing in the room?
Hi everyone, as you can see, I'm in the meeting room and I'm speaking through the conference system. I'm joining the same meeting as Karel. He's using his web browser, he's still in the webinar room. In front of me I have a big screen where I can see myself, I can see Karel, and if there would be other speakers joining the meeting, I would also see them on this screen. If Karel soon starts a voting session, I can participate this voting session by using my buttons on the unit. Karel will also can also join the voting session by using the buttons on his web interface, and this will be managed from the same point. Okay, I will give back the presentation to Karel and also Didier, who joined remotely.
Okay. Thank you, Karen, for explanation. So you also immediately see the camera tracking going on. Now, as a chairperson, you see immediately in the right tab here that several persons are, well, no, Didier Rosé is actually requesting the floor. And maybe Louis, can you also request the floor just to indicate that the request list is filled with everybody who is requesting the floor. So regardless of where you are sitting. Now, as a chairperson, I can say, okay, next in line. So Didier will be the first one who can speak, and I will activate his microphone. So now, Didier, you get the floor. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome from my cozy living room. Hopefully, webinar was interesting so far, and I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, thanks. Didier, you can stay online because I will also activate now Louis' microphone.
Sure. Hey, everyone.
Yeah, and in this case, thanks, Louis, for joining also this discussion or this conversation. So you see now that we have the split screen where both somebody in the room and somebody remotely is shown towards everybody, be it for me remotely, but also on the big screen in the room, you will see both on the big screen. Okay, thanks guys for joining this conversation. You can close your microphone, or I can do this with this button. So, but I will be polite and let you close your microphone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, so this is about the moderation. As I said, if the microphone mode would be direct speak, of course, everybody could directly speak, but in a kind of moderated way. And when you have a lot of remote delegates, it is advised to use the request to speak microphone mode. Okay, let's go to first agenda item. I will press here the button next agenda item, and this is of course a normal introduction. Karen and Louis, they will both see this on the flex. They will see it appearing on their flex units, what the agenda topic is. Of course, there is nothing to do here, so I'll go to the next one, and that's a voting item. So both Louis and Karen and Didier, of course, also will see the voting question popping up. And I will now start the voting from my side, and I've suggested that the second voting session will be done by Karen, but I will now start it from here. That means that now everybody will see on their flex units that there is a voting session going on. Also, the people remote will see this kind of pop-up. So I need to indicate my votes. I will, for example, be voting no. I confirm my votes. And I see that everybody has voted, but I don't see what they have voted because this was a kind of option. You will only see what everybody voted until I stop the voting session. So now I will stop the voting session. And so I see the results from everybody. I see the results here on the big screen. Also, this is what Karen and Louis are seeing in their room with the total results. Yes, 2, abstain 1, no 1. And then, of course, in small, you have the same here. As a chairperson, however, or as an operator, it's very handy to see or to follow up who did not vote yet. This is sometimes an issue when you have an online meeting and you want to vote with an external voting application. You always need to ask, yeah, there are still 3 votes missing, who did not vote yet? With our application, it's quite easy to just say, okay, please, Louis or Karen, please cast your vote because you did not do this yet. So once this has been discussed and shown, I can just hide the voting results, and then I can just continue the discussion from here. Now, maybe, Karen, can you initiate a voting session, or the next voting session, so to show that it is also possible to do this from your Flex unit?
Yes, so I will initiate a voting now by using the button on my unit. I push on the button, and voting has started, and everyone can join the voting. So I also pushed on the button. Now I stop the voting because everybody has voted.
Yeah, thanks.
And then we have the results.
Okay, thank you very much. So this was just to show that, in fact, that it is possible to do that both from the Flex unit as from the remote interface. So a chairperson, in fact, can be sitting also remotely. I will just hide the voting results now. And then we'll go to the next agenda topic, which is, in fact, the same, but a secret vote. So I'll just press the next agenda topic. So same question, but now secret. And I'll just start this just to indicate that the principle is the same. You can vote. I can follow who did not vote yet. So Didier did not vote yet. Didier, can you please vote? Okay, thank you. And then when I stop the voting session, I will no longer see the individual voting results, but I will just see the totals. So yes, 2, abstain 2, and no 0. But I don't know who voted what. And actually, this is the advantage of our system, since everything is Televic. There is no possibility to try to find out who actually voted what, because everything is running in one system, and we make sure that the secret vote is really secret. So there is no way to figure out who actually voted for what. Okay, so that's about it for the voting. And then maybe a last thing that I would like to show is the share presentation. So I will just indicate how I share my presentation. So for example, I press here the button and I go to a specific window. Here you see my presentation that I shared, and I'll just do it like this. So now I can just give my presentation. People in the interface will see my presentation, and then of course I can do whatever I want. Everybody remotely will see this, but also the people in the room will see the actual presentation. So that means that one screen can be used to show both the active speakers remotely in the room, but also the voting results and also the presentation. Okay, so in fact, this is, well, if I stop and maybe also important to mention, if somebody is presenting and you don't, or the content is inappropriate, or you want to stop the presentation, you can just close the microphone of that person, and then also his or her presentation will be removed from the stream. As a chairman, of course, I have always the capability to share my presentation. I will now stop this. And then I think I explained more or less, the most important topics. I think it is clear that this is a cloud application that will evolve, and there were new features will be added in the future. However, it is our goal to keep it as simple as possible, as it is meant to be used by anybody, regardless of age. So it needs to be very easy to maintain and to use. Okay, so That is the explanation about the interface. Maybe one small side remark that I did not say during this webinar. The audio from the remote participants might not sound very well for you in the webinar, since I'm just using my microphone that picks up the sound from my loudspeakers from my laptop. So, but in reality, the audio is really good. So just wanted to indicate that. Okay, so everybody in this meeting room, I would like to thank you for this conversation. I will now close this conference meeting. I just stop speaking, and I'll leave the meeting here. And also, I can just stop the meeting, which will also log out everybody who is remotely. So you'll see that it disappears here. Okay, so this was about the demonstration. So that means that we are, in fact, at the end of our webinar. Of course, we do have time for your questions, and I think there might be some questions already popping up. So I don't know, Karen, at this stage, if we do have already some questions.
Yes, okay. Maybe the first question, can I change the language of the Confero Cloud website?
Yeah, so at this stage, the Confero Cloud website will take the language of your browser. So in this case, my browser was put in English, so it will show English. If I would have a French Google Chrome browser, then it will be French, German, Dutch. So until now, we do have several languages. We can easily add other ones. In the future, of course, it will be possible to also overrule that and select your own language. But now it takes automatically the language of your browser.
And the next question, how would 16 voting options look on the conference device in the room? Normally, there are more or less 5 voting options.
But then we are, 16 is possible if you use a Unicast device. So with a Unicast device, you have a screen where you have the multiple voting options possible. Of course, if you are using a flex unit, then you are limited to the 5 voting options that are possible on that unit.
Then a question regarding connections. Will the gateway behave as a continuation of the Plixis network, even though it's connected via LAN, or is it also connected to the Plixis network as another regular unit?
Okay, so at this stage, there is no connection on the physical Plixis network. So it takes, of course, the data from the LAN from the engine, but it is not seen as a Plixis device or on a Plixis network as such. So this is now put on the LAN network together with the central unit.
And then the next one, could we use the webcam integrated on the multimedia units as video source to be seen by the remote participants?
Yes, that's possible. Then you need, of course, to have a video O box to connect it to the center, to the Plixis gateway. So, but that's indeed also a use case that has been done. Yes.
Is it possible to change between speakers and gallery view? So it's about viewing the speakers.
Yeah, and that's a question that pops up regularly. So now it is not possible to select what kind of view you want to see, the speakers or everybody. So this is now something we're looking at. For the delegates, we want to make it quite easy, so not to have too many options. But for an operator, we need to give the opportunity to also see everybody in order to just see that actually somebody is sitting behind his PC. So this is seen as a future feature.
And then a question on interpretation. Yeah. So is there a chance to integrate interpretation in Confero?
This is also something that we will work on. So the purpose will be to have the language distribution going from the physical conference room to the browser so that you can select your language and listen to your language.
Then about camera presets, they are based on microphone activity, can be achieved with TCAM or a third-party solution via our camera protocol or API. In tomorrow's session, we will talk about a camera tracking option that will be made available on the Gateway Confero platform.
Yes.
But the question is, yes, indeed.
That will be the case. So you are anticipating on tomorrow's session.
Yes.
So today I don't want to mingle or to mix too many items. So now we go from a third-party camera tracking system. But maybe as a teaser for tomorrow, we can indicate that this gateway will also behave as a camera tracking solution.
And also related to this, is the camera pre-configured with the location of the delegate units?
Yes, so this is the configuration you need to do up front. So based on the microphone activation, the preset will be need to be done up front.
And a question on the amount, how many users can take part in the online meeting?
Well, actually, we did not have the biggest test is, I think, I don't know, 150, but in theory we shouldn't have more than 200 delegates certainly supported.
And then the last question, could the remote participants receive interpretation using the Lingua ID units installed on City Hall meeting room?
Yeah, so that's also about the same question about the language distribution. So this is something that we will work on. Of course, we don't have it yet, but this is certainly something that is on our roadmap.
And last question is again on the maximum number of participants on the hybrid Confero.
Yeah, maybe it's just important to mention it's a quite scalable solution. So the number of delegate units, of course, it's not infinite, but it can be very large since we only use the active speakers. So you don't need to receive all the different remote delegates at the same time. You only get the active or the open microphones, which makes it quite scalable in number of delegate units that you can receive.
Okay, I think we answered all questions. Thank you all for joining us. I hope the webinar was very valuable for you, and we hope you have another view or get a view on how our hybrid conference system can add value. Thank you a lot for your input and your feedback, and we really appreciate your being here. If you have additional questions, do get in touch with us. And within 3 weeks, there will be a newsletter, including the presentations of today and also the recordings of webinars and trainings of the Academy Week. So thanks a lot for joining us today and see you next time. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.